When it comes to retro handhelds, you have a lot of different vertical options. You have Ambernick, you have Miu, you have TrimUI, you have some other ones that are very popular as well that you can get on websites like Amazon, um, AliExpress, stuff like that. The ones that I use mainly are my original Game Boy Color, my Funny Playing GBC kit, and the R36S. Now, while I do love a lot of these devices, there are some problems that I do face. So obviously with the original Game Boy Color, my screen is already kind of going out. It's very difficult to kind of see. I wouldn't say it's going out per se, but not having a backlit screen does kind of make it difficult to play everywhere, right? Especially if you're in a darker setting, you just can't see it. And then because of how old the hardware is, I am having some issues with the speaker and the headphone jack. So while I do love playing on this, and this is my original Game Boy Color that I got as a child, the hardware itself is fairly dated. Since then, I've upgraded to the Funny Playing GPC kit, which you essentially get to make your own Game Boy Color, and it does play all the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color cartridges. It has a rechargeable battery, and it does have a backlit screen, so you can play in the dark. You can play outside in the sun. You'll be able to see the screen. The problem I have with this though is again it runs into that kind of, are you going to be playing the same game? What happens if you want to change it? Because you are limited to the cartridges that you are carrying around at the time. And I'm also getting some issues with the speaker. It might just be I have to adjust the positioning, but I might try to buy another one and kind of see if it is my model or if it's something that some of the other models are facing as well. And then the last vertical handheld that I kind of carry around is the R36S. So this is a retro handheld that I believe this is the stock OS. This might be a custom OS actually. Um, I forgot which OS I put on here, but the reason I like this is again, it has a similar form factor as the standard Game Boys, but with the added benefit of being able to kind of put as many ROMs as you want and as many consoles as you want on here. Um, with the limit being what consoles this particular device is capable of running optimally. So, with this one, while I do like the form factor, I do love how you can play as much games as you want. Some of the problems that I face is when I'm playing a vertical handheld, I don't necessarily play games that will generally require the two joysticks. Maybe one joystick at the most, but this, at times if I'm playing like this, I might accidentally move one of those joysticks. Now it is ergonomic. I have no issues. My fingers kind of sit back here really nicely, and I do have access to the L and R buttons. But again, I find myself playing less joystick um, based games than I would just the standard games that would be like on Game Boy, Game Boy Color, or even NES and SNES. So while I do like this, some of the other issues that I face is this hump here in the back is kind of pretty tall, and it makes this kind of difficult to to put in your pocket. So pocketability for this particular device ends up becoming something that is more difficult than even a standard Game Boy. Which brings us to the Trim UI Brick. So this is actually a handheld that I've been pretty excited to get my hands on, and today we're going to be doing an unboxing. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So here is the front of the box. It does show the two different colors, and I believe there's one additional color. I did get the one in white. So some of the things that it has feature-wise: fast boot, a 3.2-inch IPS LCD, wireless capabilities, stereo speaker, and USB Type-C. Now this WLAN might be, I don't know if this is actually to connect to the internet or if this is just to create a wireless local area network so you can play against someone with another TrimUI device or retro handheld. So on the left of the box, you have the barcode and the color of the device that you got. on the right side, you just have the TrimUI Brick text. On the bottom of the box, you just have some decals here with TrimUI Brick and the model number. And then on the top of the box, same thing, and you might also have a barcode depending on your shipper. On the back of the box, you can see a little bit of snippet about the device itself. So 3.5-inch display, RGB lighting effects, stereo speakers, and an extra set of keycaps. So the device itself does have a metal back shell, and it is easy to disassemble. Inside the box, it says we have the Brick handheld itself, a cable, user manual, and those two key sets. So let's go ahead and unbox it. So there is only one sticky adhesive tape on the very bottom of the box itself. And then we have our console. So one thing I noticed about my particular model is it came like this, which it kind of shows this upside down. And you can kind of see where that tape was. So that's kind of how mine was shipped. I don't know if that's how they're all shipped, but that's how mine was shipped. So just opening the box itself, place that to the side. We have the TrimUI Brick. So let's put this off to the side real quick and take a look at some of the other stuff in the packaging. So we do have the instruction manual, and we'll use this instruction manual to kind of do an overview of the device. That way we can kind of see what buttons and functions that we have. So we'll keep this open. We have a USB-A to USB Type-C cable. It looks pretty short. I'd probably say 1.5 feet, 1.5 foot to maybe 2 feet. I don't think it's a 3-foot one. It looks fairly short. So your best bet is to kind of use the existing one that you have around the house if you do have one. And then you have the two keycap sets for the L and R buttons. So this one looks to be a little bit more flush, right? This looks to be a flush set, no added height for any of the keys. And then this one has a more angled one. So if you want to have your fingers a little bit more different in height to kind of know which button you're pressing, this does have that nice angle. So you do get this one included. Oops, focuses, yep. So you get this one here, and you get this one here, which I do like the more flush look, but I guess we'll see when we start to use the device. All right, and we'll go ahead and put these back. And now we have the TrimUI. So it does come in this protective sleeve. And once we get it out, the protective sleeve, it does come with a styrofoam protector for the buttons in the screen. And it has a like a removable screen protector. I actually do have a screen protector coming in for this device. So I won't be taking this off just yet. I will once I install the screen protector, but we'll turn this device on as well. So let's take a look at the actual front of the device. So on the front of the device itself, we have our D-pad. On the left side, we have our ABXY buttons. We also have a menu button here, a select, and a start button. These two right here are the two speakers, front facing, which is really nice. And then we also have a F1, so function 1 and function 2. And I do believe these two can also light up. So this is really nice too. And you can turn these off, but I believe you can change this to whatever color that you want. But Again, two function buttons that you can kind of set whatever button mapping you want. Or I think depending on what operating system you're using and what emulator you're using, these also have some functionality as well. So on the right of the device, you have your, I guess this is the FN switch. So this is an FN switch, probably to kind of toggle these buttons for their functionality. So you have an FN switch and the power button. And the power button is in a nice kind of teal color. So separate from any of the other colors on the device. So it does look like that's the only place where that teal exists. So right there. On the top of the device, you have a USB-C port. And I'm not entirely sure what that one's for because you do have one on the bottom as well. This, I assume maybe this one's for power and maybe this one's for data transfer. In the manual itself, it just says host. So you have a USB Type-C port in the back, and then the R1, R2, L2, and L1 buttons. Now, they are slightly different in height. So you can kind of see where, if you're using this device right out of the box, you could definitely tell which button's which. You won't accidentally press one or the other. So on the left side of the device, we have our volume buttons. So volume up and volume down. And then on the bottom of the device, we have our TF card slot, which is for your micro SD, which I believe this one does come with one already. You have your reset button. So this one is just, I believe, a soft reset, and your DC cable. It This is your USB charging port. But what's interesting is I actually didn't know this. This also has a microphone built in. So this tiny hole in between the headphone jack and the USB-C, this is actually a microphone. So I guess if you're emulating something like maybe Nintendo 64, Hey You Pikachu, you can kind of use that microphone to talk, or maybe if you're playing a game that has microphone functionality, you now have the ability to. So that's actually a first that I've seen on one of these kind of devices. So like the RG36 or the R36S doesn't have the microphone feature, and obviously the Game Boy and Game Boy Color doesn't as well. But that's pretty much the overview of the device itself. So again, the front of the device, the right side, the left side of the device, the bottom of the device, top, and the back of the device. So now that we've actually taken a look at the device, let's kind of compare it in terms of size, right? So this is the device itself. And as you can tell, it's pretty small compared to the standard Game Boy Color even. And the Game Boy Color isn't all that big. Um, I have a Game Boy Pocket somewhere, but I just don't remember where it is. It's probably at my parents' house, but it's probably, I want to say it's even smaller than the Game Boy Pocket because I don't believe the Game Boy Colors is that much bigger than the Game Boy Pocket. But that's pretty impressive. So compared to the Game Boy Color, um, you know, being the same form factor, it's going to be the same as, compared to the funny playing Game Boy. See, now something a little bit more retro handheld based. This is the R36S. And as you can tell, height wise, it is slightly smaller. I say slightly, but honestly, that's a good inch. That's a good inch or two. Um, Width wise, you can definitely tell there is a lot more pocketable pocketability. Yeah, pocketability. There's a lot more pocketability with the Trim UI, and I actually really like that a lot. Thickness though on the bottom, it seems to be honestly about the same. It doesn't, yeah, it seems to be at the same as the R36S. So it's not too thick in terms of that, but because it doesn't have these humps, you definitely have that that more straight, slim feel on the device itself. In hand, it feels really nice. I don't feel like I have any problems pressing or differentiating between the L1, R1, and vice versa. So that's something that I really like. Button feels, they're not as clicky as the R36S. So, and we'll kind of do a quick sound comparison for that. Let me kind of take my microphone and show you guys. So you can definitely hear the difference between the button presses on the L and R buttons on the back of these devices. The Game Boy Color ones obviously don't have them. But this you could definitely play in a more quieter environment, and I don't think anyone's going to really hear. Um, Feel wise, I would say that until I start playing it, these like they're lighter triggers, so I'm wondering how much it'll register the button presses, but I'll be able to tell more once I kind of start playing with the device itself. So let's go ahead and turn on the device and kind of see what we're working with. So let me go ahead and put this one to the side and we'll turn it on. So to turn on the device, you just want to go ahead and hold the power button, I believe, until the TrimUI, yep, until the TrimUI logo kind of appears. And I believe TrimUI, oh, okay, so it does, yeah, so those do light up. I don't know if you can see in it, but it is that kind of, I guess that's the TrimUI color, is this nice kind of teal, right? Teal or cyan. So it is that same color, which I actually do like that color a lot. Oh, nice. Okay, so I like the button feel. Okay, so we got Bomberman Collection. So right off the bat, if you want to play any of the Bomberman games, they're right here on the forefront. And again, this is on my particular purchase. Yours might differ. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Wow, I did not know that it did that. So the back of the device lights up on the L1 and R1 buttons, or I guess the L and R buttons. That's nice. And then you have this nice light up here. Now, I guess this could be a little bit distracting as well. So like if you're just playing this device and somebody um, is around you, or like if you're, because I'm the type of person where if I'm just waiting in line, or let's say I'm in a movie theater and I'm waiting for the movie to start, this is the perfect device to kind of carry around. But that light might be a bit distracting, but it also might be a conversation starter. So, it's a double-edged sword. Um, Nostalgic mini games. Okay, so it looks like you got the Castlevania, Crash Bandicoot, Dragon Warrior. Some interesting choices here. I wouldn't necessarily say these are my nostalgic mini games. Like I don't know if Fire Pro Wrestling was something that I would have a nostalgic feel towards, or even um, ESPN, any of the ESPN games. I just don't know if that's something that I'd be like, yep, that's it. That's my nostalgic mini game. Harvest Moon, however, Friends of Mineral Town, that's definitely one. Metal Slug, Street Fighter Alpha 3. Some of these are pretty solid choices. So, and then you have, I guess, the multi cartridges. So, okay, wow. So there's quite a. So it says 19 here, 37 here, and 14 here. I thought there was gonna be more. Oh, okay, wow. Okay, so the device itself has this kind of menu. So you have favorites, recent. So this is a CPS3. So this is arcade machine. The best ones, I guess. So these ones are what they consider um, the best nostalgic mini games, Bomberman Collection, and Famicom multi cartridges. So I assume that's what the FC stands for. Then you have games, which on here you can kind of see the different ones. So arcade games on here, it comes preloaded with about 123, 77 Atari Lynx, 704 Atari 2600. So a lot of these games are going to be um, just kind of scattered all over the place. They wouldn't necessarily be organized how I would normally like it. I generally like to organize my game library using like the no intro or even the redump naming convention. I'll use something like ROM Center or something a ROM manager and kind of organize my files that way. And I wouldn't nearly put as many games on one of these devices because, again, you do have this feel of overwhelming when you just see a entire library of games. You're just like, oh wow. So having this is, you know, out of the box. If you don't want to mess around with that kind of stuff, that's perfectly fine. This has preloaded a bunch of games, a bunch of consoles as well. Again, so you have your arcade. Um, Atari Lynx, Atari 2600, Atari 7800. It doesn't look like 5200 is on here. Um, CPS 1, 2, and 3, Dreamcast, Easy RPG, Final Burn Neo, Famicom, which I assume this is just Famicom games. Oh, so it does have them indexed in folders though by letter, which is pretty nice. FFM, PEG, Game Gear, Game and Watch. Oh, Game and Watch is that's pretty interesting. Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, MAME, and Plus. So you have a wide selection of games already preloaded on this device. Um, we'll go like let's go ahead and jump into to kind of see because I am interested to see just how it performs on PlayStation. So let's kind of just jump into this first one. Oh well, that didn't even work. Maybe this one. Okay, so this one does look like it's loading. So load time on PlayStation seems to be a little bit okay. So it uses RetroArch. I wonder how I wonder how I would play this because I think this game actually does use a joystick. So I don't know. The buttons aren't. I don't remember if I could skip this or if like I had to. Okay, so yeah. So let me see how I get back. Okay. Oh, okay. So you can actually just straight up exit the game. So this button right here, the TrimUI button itself is pretty much a it's specific to the console or I guess the operating system, which is just a menu button that allows you to go in and out of whatever game you're playing. So PlayStation boots up nicely. That's going to be crazy. I'm interested to see the performance of this device. Again, this is the first. This is actually the first TrimUI device that I've gotten. I didn't realize that. Okay, so very cool thing that I just noticed is as I'm going through the menu, these two function buttons here, they match the color of the background. So I don't know if you can kind of see it here on camera, per se, but they match the color of whatever is on screen. So if it changes to like a, let's do like a, yeah, so this just changed to yellow to match Game Boy Color. This is purple to match Game Boy Advance. So that's actually a pretty neat feature. I can definitely see myself playing this a lot more than something like the R36S. Like fatigue wise, this is just a lighter device. It's a lot more pocket friendly, and um, let's just kind of see how it feels. So I have fairly small hands. I wouldn't say I have like the largest hands or like the smallest hands. Um, and I would say like it being a smaller device, I just don't see me having any issues. You definitely hold it a little bit differently. So like if you can kind of see how I'm holding it here, I'm holding it like more of a claw, right? So it doesn't sit in my hands like this more like this, where I just kind of have it out. Whereas something like the R36S, I can kind of lay that down right here and play it. So we'll actually see just how much fatigue I feel after playing something like this. But I mean, just right off the bat, this is something that like if I'm playing like an RPG, I think I could just like one, with one hand, and this would be really nice. Man, I actually really like the build of this too. It feels like a very premium device. Not just like feel, but in my opinion, look as well. There's a lot of these features that you just don't get on something like this, which is, I mean, I got this for like $30, right? So like $30, like double the price. Um, this is what I got, and I mean, I personally think this is well worth double the price of what I paid for. Now, whether or not it's going to be as good, if not better. I'll kind of do a review on that at a later date. But I just kind of want to show you guys my unboxing, my initial thoughts, powering on the device, and a quick comparison of some of the other devices. So um, I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys on the next one.